Hola, hola, and welcome to the Cultura Cash podcast. This is your host, Gigi, or Giovanna Gonzalez, also known as the First Gen Mentor. I'm an author, speaker, and financial educator. And today I have a guest on the show, which is exciting. You know, if you are familiar with the podcast, there's a lot of rants with just me, but today I get to talk to somebody and have a fun conversation. I have Sahirenys, who is the founder of Poised Finance and Lifestyle and the creator of the High Five Banking Method. She's a millennial Latina mom and financial wellness educator with a background in finance and financial planning. She has held roles at Merrill Lynch, MetLife, and Ameriprise. Sahirenys is known for her practical money systems and has helped thousands of people get organized, build financial confidence, and stay intentional with their spending and financial goals. Her work has been featured on outlets like Forbes, Women, CNBC, and CNET. So she is the real deal. And today we are talking to her about the High Five Baking Method and her upcoming book. So welcome to the show, Sahirenys.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here and to communicate, my book and everything that we're working on.
Yes, yes. Let's get to know you on a little personal level first. So,
All right.
if you kind of want to share with us your ethnic background, where you grew up, and where you live today.
Yes, so I am Dominican. Both of my parents are immigrants from Dominican Republic, the capital, Santo Domingo. And my
Okay.
dad, he came to California like most Dominicans do. Most Latinos, they joined the military using the Navy. And he was stationed in Long Beach, but he traveled to San Diego and he fell in love with it. So right when he came over here, he told his cousin, hey, come over here. He brought my mom, and we've been living here since I was born here at this point for going on 35 years. Born and raised, and I love living here. It's a great city and super fun.
Whereabouts in San Diego do you live? I lived in the area for close to 10 years.
I live in Chula Vista.
Oh, nice, nice. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Um, yeah, I was all over the county. It was during my like rocky 20s, broke bitch era. San Diego's expensive, so I
It's
moved a
big
lot.
too, from
Yeah,
Oceanside
yeah,
all the way down. So it's a big
yeah,
city. I've also lived a
yeah.
few other areas, but my family's mostly, we live in Chula Vista.
Nice. Very good. Very good. Okay, good. And you mentioned that he immigrated from the Dominican Republic to California, which I was expecting New York or New Jersey. I feel like
He
a
did
lot
go
of
to New York
Dominicans.
first. You're right.
Okay.
He did go to New York first, but once he got in the military, they kind of, take you where they want to take you. And he ended up over here because
Right.
he joined the Navy. So there were a lot of military stations over here. So
Yeah, yeah,
Navy,
yeah.
Marines, all of it.
Yeah. The SEALs get trained out there. Yeah, yeah. Okay,
hmm
cool. All right. And then going back to your childhood, what were money conversations like growing up? Did your family talk about money? Did they teach you anything about money? Did they encourage you to have a career in finance? Tell me about that.
Yes, so my parents were really ingrained in the American dream and the American culture. They really wanted to learn how to make money and how to kind of fit in their own way. So my parents originally, they got into real estate. That's a really big industry, especially in the
Smart.
Dominican Republic. Over there's only two
Yeah.
ways to make money. Either you're in real estate or you're a baseball player. That's about it. So when my
Yeah.
dad came out here, he's like, you know what? The military is not for me, and that's all right. I'm going to go ahead and do real estate. And he did that for a good amount of his career. And what he learned from that, on the top of that, he got into Amway. I'm not into, pyramid schemes or anything like that, but he did learn a lot about, self development. So he used to read me a lot of books and read a lot of books like Rich Dad Poor Dad, Who Stole My
Yeah.
Cheese, The Millionaire Next Door, The Richest Man in Babylon. And he was really ingrained in learning about how to make money. And that was a really good, experience for me and my sisters. And he always told us to dream big. So we would always go to his office and he would bring all these magazines about big homes and beautiful homes in San Diego. And he would tell us, cut out the picture that you want, for the house that you want, and we're going to put it on the fridge, and you're going to get that house one day. And we used to always tour homes and, be very aspirational about, what you want and the goals that you want to achieve. And, me and my sisters, we're big dreamers. So when I learned about financial planning, I was like, oh my gosh, we get to plan out our dreams. That's for me. But, my parents, they were very open. They wanted me to do whatever made me happy. They didn't tell me you need to do finance or accounting or anything like that. They're very open-minded, and, they're kind of a little shocked that we went to college, me and my sister. But, when you're in America, your parents work so hard to get you here and to give you the best opportunities. You want to take advantage of that. So I definitely did that. I took my time, figuring out my major. I was originally in pharmacy, and eventually I got into accounting, and then found finance and financial planning and completely fell in love. I think it's really important to make sure that you find a career that you're interested in, that you're passionate about, and that you want to do in the long run.
Super cool. There's a lot to digest there. So first, I'm curious, when you mentioned your dad got into real estate, was he doing real estate investing? Was he a realtor? Was he like a broker, like a mortgage broker? What was his lane, let's say, in real estate?
They had two lanes. So his main lane was he was a real estate agent. Eventually, he became a loan officer, but they also flipped homes and had rental properties in San Diego.
Wow, super cool and super smart. And that's so cool that they brought you in, right, as little girls and cultivated that in you. I think that's such a beautiful thing. And that's why we have these conversations, right, to inspire the next generation as they're raising kids to do things differently, right? Sometimes our parents just did the best they could, but I love hearing such an inspiring story of your Dominican immigrant parents, and they hustled and they made sure that their daughters were set up. So that's beautiful. And are they still in San Diego, your parents?
No, they eventually retired now in Dominican Republic.
Oh, nice. Good. So
that
how
was
often do
their
you see them
dream.
now?
Their dream was always that. They're like, we're going to work and then go back home.
I get it.
Dominicans really love their country. So, that's always a big dream for a lot of Dominicans when you get to know them and start talking to them about their dreams. They're like, oh, no, we're going back home. Some people go to the campo, the countryside. Some people stay in the capital, closer to family. I think it's a great way to plan your retirement as well.
Yeah, definitely. Make your money in the US and then take it with you to the DR, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for college, did you stay local in San Diego, or did you leave San Diego for college?
I did choose to leave. So I started off at community college here at Southwestern Community
Oh, me
College
too.
in Chula Vista. You too?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's the
My
best
dad and
way.
my
It's the
mom.
smartest thing.
Yes, exactly. My parents even went there. They love it. They're like, go there and get your money's worth. And then eventually I did a few college tours. I went to San Diego State, Long Beach, and Northridge. And right when I got on campus at Northridge, I fell in love. That school is amazing.
Son?
Yes.
Okay.
And, the great part that I like about that university is that a lot of people don't know that they have professors there that also work part-time at USC, UCLA, Pepperdine. So you're getting
I didn't know
your
that.
money's worth realistically.
Yeah.
So I love that experience. I worked at the Union, and I also got an internship at Merrill Lynch at that time. So I really maximized my experience there.
Very cool. And I'm curious because Northridge is LA County, right? You
Technically, they
stay
call
in
it the
LA?
Valley though.
Oh, is it the Valley? Okay.
They call it,
So,
they make it very specific.
okay. Yeah, they want to draw the line. So, okay, LA County adjacent. Did you stay in LA? Or were you just like, I'm good with my LA time, and you went back to San Diego?
Definitely. So I enjoyed my time while I was in college, and then I came back home. San Diego is nothing like it. I was dating my boyfriend, my husband at the now, and I decided to come back, and hey, it worked out. We ended up getting married, having kids, and starting businesses. So I'm excited I did make that choice of coming back home in my own terms.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I lived in LA for a year, and the traffic is brutal when I go there now for work. it just drives my nervous system on overload. And I feel like so many people are so used to it, right? Because just the commute's a
Mm-hmm.
part of their everyday life. And I'm just like, this is not normal. Sitting in a car, sitting in like a metal machine for this long, it's not good for your health. And I feel it. I feel it. So, although I know San Diego, they have their areas too where they get back up and whatnot. But very cool. Okay, so you mentioned that you had started as what was your first major?
Pharmacy. I can't believe it.
Pharmacy. Yes, I think that's a great career, right? But I'm curious, what caused the pivot, right, to more of accounting than finances? Because those are two big industries, and I'm curious to hear that, especially as a first gen Latina navigating college, right? Because a lot of my listeners are first gen. How did you go about that decision making process? Did you ask mentors? Did you shadow at jobs? Was it through internships that you're like, oh, I actually like this better? Do you tap into your career center to get more information? How did you navigate that decision to switch? Because it's a big one.
Yes. I originally got into pharmacy for all the wrong reasons, to be honest with you. During
Let me guess,
08,
to make money.
yes, that was my main thing. I wanted to make a lot of money coming out of college.
Yeah.
And the main
Yeah.
reason I wanted to make a lot of money was because my family were victims to the 2008 recession. My parents were really
Mm,
struggling. My dad was in real estate, like I said. They wasn't making any
mm-hmm.
money, it was very difficult times. And my dad, he told us, hey, we're not paying the mortgage. We're not paying for the cars. So if the sheriffs come and we lose the house, you know what's going on. If you see a tow truck outside, they're not coming here to help you, change a tire. They're coming here to take the cars. So I really started to turning my life, revolving it around money and being in fear of money. So I was being very fearful
Mm,
with everything I was doing. So I picked the major of pharmacy out of fear because I didn't have any
yeah.
financial stability at home and I was looking for
Mm-hmm.
financial stability for myself. So I chose it for all
Mm-hmm.
the wrong reasons. And, while I was in
Mm-hmm.
my classes, I was just not liking it, struggling through it, and just pushing through, kind of like banging your
Yeah.
head against the wall, doing something you don't like, but trying to
Yeah.
make it work because you need that stability in your life and that, future to look bright. And when eventually we did lose the home, and, I remember
I'm
looking.
sorry.
No, it's okay. It was the worst thing that happened for us at that time, but it ended up being the best thing that ever happened to us as well. And it doesn't feel that way when you're in it. You're really scared. That's like, our home is like our safety net. That's where we have our sanctuary. We have all our
Yeah.
stuff. That's where we go to rest.
Stability.
We're
Yeah.
resting there. We feel safe. And when we lost our home, my mom told me that morning when we lost our home, that they kicked her out in her pajamas, and the only reason to let her back
Oh
in the
no.
house is because we had a special needs sister. She's very young, and she needed to get her and her medication and all her necessities, and that was the only reason they let her go back into the house. And that night, I felt like a complete criminal because I broke into my home just to get some of my necessities. I had no clothes for
Yeah.
work. I didn't have my books for class. And I took my toothbrush because I'm like, I'm not coming back here. This is the last time that I'm ever going to be in my home. And I
How can they be
realized
so cruel and not let people take their stuff out?
they give you like a few days later, they let you come back in to come collect
Okay.
all your stuff with police supervision to make sure you don't,
Okay.
vandalize the home or do anything. But, it's really hard because my mom was in her pajamas. She had no clothes, no nothing. And,
Yeah.
my little
I'm
sister,
so
no diapers,
sorry.
no nothing. It was it was a mess. And to be
Mm.
able to just afford to go buy everything brand new for a few days, that costs money. And we didn't have that money to just that luxury realistically to
Right.
do that. And
Right.
I realized in that moment when I broke into my home that I wasn't being myself. I'm not someone that's like that. I'm very, conservative at a certain point, very, behave. I don't
Like a
break
rule
the law.
follower.
Yeah, I don't break the law. Come on now. That's dramatic.
Hmm.
But I realized that I've been living my entire life based on fear. I picked my major based on fear. My relationships were based off fear. The way I was moving with my finances, I was hoarding every single penny. Like there was no wiggle room at all. And it was all because of fear. And I told myself, I'm done with this shit. I'm done living in fear. I'm done making moves in my life that I'm not okay with. I don't like where I'm headed. And look what's happening. I lost my home. The police are here. Every single time I borrow my parents' car, I'm looking over my shoulder to make sure the tow truck doesn't come to take the car. I'm constantly making choices that aren't benefiting me. And I decided to wake up. And that same week, I decided to change my major into business. I got into accounting, and eventually I got into finance and financial planning. But sometimes you need that wake up call that you need to start living life based on your own rules and not the whole, just it is what it is and going with the flow and making choices that aren't true to you and who you are and where you're trying to go. So that's why I made that big pivot. And I don't think I would have made that pivot if it wasn't for that big wake up call.
Good for you. So many people stay stuck or, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do, or I spend so much time in this major, I don't want to restart. It's unfortunate that it took such a big event like that, right? Such a traumatic event, really. But like you said, it all worked out for the better. And I love knowing now that your parents are retired and living their best life in the DR.
Exactly.
And yes, I
Everything
love
works
that.
out. It works out.
Everything worked
We
out.
don't feel like it when in the moment, like I said. It's really traumatizing, and it does affect us. Like our past really does project into our future. We just don't see it. A lot of times we're spending a lot of money, or we're not setting goals, or we're not budgeting for a reason. And for me, I was living in fear. And that fear has to melt away one way or another. And that frustration, that's what helped me destroy that fear. Getting frustrated with my own situation and saying, hey, I can make a change. I can, change my major. I can make a new decision right now to propel me forward. You don't have to stay stuck. I really do believe what you said. Like, people stay stuck for so long because of the decisions that they've made in the past. You can still switch, hey, I took calculus and I don't need it for my major, but you know what? I took calculus. I learned something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good. Okay. And I am curious to hear more about your career once you graduated. You mentioned, or we talked in your bio, how you've worked at several places, at Merrill Lynch, Ameriprise. Is that where you learned all that you know about finances, or how did the money nerd side kind of come up with your finance career? Trying to
It
figure out if they
really
went hand in
was.
hand, or if it's something that was the separate aspiration.
I think once I learned about financial planning, that new degree that I was being offered at my school, it felt like the heavens opened up for me because I had so many questions about money because my parents learned how to make money. That wasn't the issue.
Mm-hmm.
We just didn't know how to manage the money we had.
Mm-hmm.
So when I
Mm-hmm.
learned about financial planning at college, I learned about how to pay off debt, how to budget, how to set goals, how to have an emergency fund that is focused on you, not what everyone else is doing. You know what I'm saying? We learned about
Yeah.
investing, estate planning, taxes. The list goes on and on. And to me, I just got goosebumps everywhere because there are solutions out there for us. We just don't know them. As minorities, as Latinas, as people of color, women, we don't know about these things. So we're just like making it up as we go. But there are strategies out there that can actually help us better manage our finances and start building wealth instead of always starting over. Every single time there's a recession, you lose your job, there's an emergency that
Yeah.
happens. We keep on building up and then losing everything over and over again. This toxic cycle has to end. So I was excited
Yes.
when I learned about all these different topics at CSUN, and I wanted to implement them for myself and help people in our community. The only problem was when I got into, at Merrill Lynch, at MetLife and Ameriprise, there weren't a lot of people that looked like you and me coming in. There weren't a lot of
Mm-hmm.
minorities coming in.
I
If
can
there was
guess what
women,
people look like.
and if there was women coming in, they were always coming in with their husbands or even their fathers, but
Oh.
they were never
Oh.
coming in by themselves. Yeah, I'm surprised, like, with your dad, but not by
Interesting.
yourself.
Yeah.
And there wasn't any young people. We're the ones that have the opportunity to start building wealth from the beginning, but we're not coming in because we don't feel confident. And I would hear it all the time in the elevator. So many couples talking about, what they just signed, what they just did. And they're like, I don't even know what we just signed. I don't know what we're invested in. I don't even know what's going on with this life insurance stuff. Just completely lost. And I'm like, oh my goodness, these people are paying a whole bunch of money to get advice and they still don't know what's going on. So where does
Mm-hmm.
that leave us? And, once I decided to have my children and I stepped away from the industry, I realized, and my husband told me, yeah, you don't have to, not share this information that you have, because I was very passionate about helping people. So I decided to, talk to my friends and family, trying to offer them a free financial plan. Because when I was working in the industry, what people don't know, especially back in that time, there was a lot of regulations and HR rules, and you couldn't share financial advice and topics online. But now that I wasn't in the industry, I felt free. I was like, okay, I can start helping people. And
Sorry, really quick. When did you leave the industry?
oh, my daughter was born 2016. 2016.
Okay. So it's a while ago. Yeah, 10 years ago. Okay, gotcha.
Yes, time flies by. That's the truth.
Hmm.
But once I got it out of the industry, I wanted to help my friends and family a little bit more. But, the moment you bring up the first step of a financial plan, which is the budget, se jodió la vaina. Everything went downhill very quickly. And, I wasn't aware that budgeting was such a triggering word for so many people.
Yeah.
Because,
Oh, yeah.
to me, it's like, oh, it's not a big deal. You just figure out how much money's coming in, how much money's going out, and see what wiggle room you have so that you can start investing, so that you can start, propelling forward into your financial goals and, thinking about retirement and all of the things that you want to do. But that was the B word over there. So I didn't take offense. I started getting ghosted, but I didn't take it personal. I decided to really focus on myself and being the change that I wanted to see. So my husband and I, we started budgeting. We started saving up our emergency fund. We cash flowed our wedding. We paid off our student loans. And when it came to our wedding, people started noticing that we were moving different. We weren't worried about the emergencies that were popping up. We weren't worried about
What
paying
kind
for
of
the
questions
bill.
were they asking you or comments were they making?
They were saying, how did you pay off your student loans? What do you guys do for a living? How much money did you guys pay for the wedding? Like, how did you do it? Like, all of
Okay.
the little questions that you start seeing when you're like, okay, this emergency happened and they're not even worried about the bill. Like, what's going on? Usually we're in our community, especially in mine, we're all asking for ofrendas. Everyone help out to help
Hmm.
pay for
Hmm.
something because the emergency is quite costly. And for us, we weren't dealing with that. We're like, no, we got it. We have the money. We have our emergency fund. We have the money for our wedding. We have our bill money. We're good. And what I realized down this journey of mine is that you can give people all the budgeting tips, all of the things that you're doing, tell them what career you're in, how much money you make, all of the fine details. But if they don't have a structure to hold them accountable,
Yes.
none of it is actually going to work. And for
Yep.
me, I didn't realize, that my structure was so valuable until, you get through the difficult times in your life. Like for me, when I was going through my second pregnancy, my son was diagnosed with a heart defect. And I was pregnant, it was only 5 months, and it was a really challenging time for me. So much so that I was even diagnosed with Graves' disease. It was crazy times for me.
Hmm.
And I realized, you know what? Life is really handing me a challenge here. I need to sit down with it and take control of the parts of this situation that I can control. And for me, that was the money part. I love managing my finances, so why am I not gonna, figure out how much is the surgery gonna cost? How much is this healthcare gonna cost? What expenses do we need to be, aware of for when this situation happens? And my husband, he's the opposite of me, so he focused on making money. He had his business at that time, and he was getting in new clientele, really, putting his head down, working 60 hours a week, and we were making it happen. And when I told my husband, at the end of the month, I gave him a budget of how much I was projecting the expenses to be for his surgery. And he told me, hey, you know what? I just got a new project and it ended up being less than $100 off from the actual projection that I had for my son's surgery. And I felt like this was a complete blessing. This was what I needed to feel like, hey, everything's going to be okay. It might not feel like it at first, but you're going to have everything that you need to get through this. And I told my husband, let's take this money and put it in the same savings account that we had for our wedding, because we cash flowed that wedding and we had no debt and it worked out very seamlessly. It was separate from our emergency fund and all our other expenses. And he said, absolutely, let's do that. And it was
So
amazing.
I'm sorry to interrupt. What you're
No, definitely
describing
interrupt.
here is your signature method, right? The high five
Mm-hmm.
banking method. Okay. So yeah,
Absolutely,
tell us
yes.
more about that.
Yes. So I didn't know how valuable this was. To me, it just felt
Yeah.
like second nature. It made sense. Why would I not take this blessing and put it in a specific savings account that's specifically just for him? Nothing else is coming out of that. I don't care if there's an emergency. I don't care if we have an overdraft bill. It doesn't matter. That money is for him and his livelihood. Now, once we, got to his surgery, his birth was great. Everything was amazing from there. Doctors told us, hey, we're thinking that it might be 6 months from now where you might have his surgery. His heart has to be like big enough for them to do the surgery. So the bigger the heart,
Yeah.
the more prosperous the surgery is going to be. So, when it came down to his surgery, we had the money, we were ready to go. We decided to go to Children's Hospital of LA, and we got a surgeon there, and everything was planned out. Now, the thing that kind of shocked me was, right when you go for the surgery date, they ask you for half the payment up front. And for me, I was like, God, this feels like it's the wrong timing. You shouldn't be asking parents to give you money up front, before this situation. And you talk to other parents because, they're also going through their grieving stage of, going through all this difficultness. And, I've talked to a mom where she said she had to quit her job because they wouldn't give her 2 weeks off to take care of her daughter for her surgery and her recovery time. There was another dad that was sleeping in his car because he wasn't able to get a room at the Ronald McDonald House, and all the hotels in LA at that time close to the hospital were sold out. So, he was doing Ubering to pay for the surgery and to pay for all the expenses. And you're seeing all of these families dealing with this emotional, spiritual moment and also dealing with the finances. And
Capitalism.
and it hurts, you're seeing this and you're like, wow, I know what they're going through. But now they're going through another challenge, which is the financial aspect. And when we got home and my son's surgery was a success and he was completely healed, he was playing like nothing happened, Gigi. It was crazy how resilient children really are. And I told my husband, you know what? I think we need to share how we were managing our finances, because not once during that time did I check my budget. Not once did I worry if we had the money to pay for our son's surgery. Not once was I thinking about if I can afford to get a cup of tea to ground myself and relax myself during those tense moments. Not once did I feel like we didn't have the money. So how we were actually managing it really did make a big difference in my peace of mind and my mental health during that time. And my husband was like, all right, well then how many accounts do we have? I was like, all right, well we have one checking account for our bills. We have one for our lifestyle. And wow, we have 3 savings accounts. We have one for our emergency fund, our short-term and our long-term goals. And we both looked at our hands like, high five. Let's call it the high five banking method. And that's why
That's
we
cute.
created it. I know. And it was such a magical moment because I know how difficult it is as a parent to see your children going through difficult times. And I know how difficult it is to also worry about the financial aspect. We need more systems in our lives that give us room for margin, that gives us the flexibility to not be perfect. Because so many times our finances have to be perfect. Our bills cannot be 1 cent higher. It cannot, our credit cards, we can't afford to put another bill on there, another expense on there. And we're feeling this amount of stress. And no one is creating systems for us to actually manage our cash flow in a way that benefits us and helps us, and that's really focused on our purpose, the purpose that you want for your money to actually do for you. So I really wanted to make sure that, I helped as many families and as many people as possible manage and organize their finances so they can feel that peace of mind that I felt during my most difficult times. Because, it's easy to manage your money when times are good. That's not a problem. But when
Yeah.
times are
Yeah.
difficult, how are your systems being challenged at that time? And this one really
Yeah.
did test the time.
People tend to drop everything, right? And just focus on survival. And that system kind of is what kind of keeps you still solvent, right?
Exactly. It really did.
Yeah, and that's actually why I wanted to have you on the podcast because I think a lot of educators, and myself included, right? They talk a lot about the basics, so the
Hmm.
101 of budgeting, how to get started investing. And I feel like what you're teaching and what you're sharing with your method, it's very much like 201 of okay, we're assuming you already understand the importance of budgeting and goal planning, goal setting. This is actual structure, right? That you
Hmm.
can follow to make these goals happen. Because Because true, people like you said don't like the B word. I call it a spending plan or whatever you want to call it, right? But it's just really managing, having a spending plan, having a job for your money. And this is definitely one way to simplify that, right? So whether people choose the envelope method or they want to actually track it on a spreadsheet or do the no budget, I love your system, and I think it's going to be so beneficial for you to share this message more with your book, right? Which it focuses on the system as well as other practices, right?
Absolutely. One of the biggest questions I always get is how to flow your money through the high five banking method. And I take people through the steps, from first separating their bills from their lifestyle to figuring out what
Yes.
goals they actually have. Because a lot of times
Yeah.
we don't even dream anymore. We don't know what
Yeah.
our goals are, what we want to accomplish. Because a lot of times people are struggling because they don't have the first three accounts set up. They don't have their bills and their lifestyle spending separated. They don't have an emergency fund. And it's really hard to start saving for short-term and long-term goals when your foundation isn't even set. So I really want
Yeah.
people to figure that out, what those numbers are for them, because it's not going to be the same for their neighbors or their friends. Everyone's numbers are completely different and unique to their lifestyle. And also depending on what season of life you're in. And once you have that foundation set, now let's figure out, how you want to start implementing this through your system. How can you actually make this a system that works for you based on where you're at? So I really do love, talking about the high five banking method, sharing my story. It was really hard for me in the beginning to share it because, again, this is my reality. This is my truth. It's my
Yeah.
story of my son and our family. But I know it's
Yes.
going to help
Such a
so many
vulnerable
people.
time.
Yeah, it's so hard. But
Yeah.
what helped us was having a money system so that we don't have to be checking our budget 24/7. Now, this doesn't mean that you don't have a budget. The high five banking
Hmm.
method promotes budgeting secretly because you're
Hmm.
secretly budgeting, but it
Yeah. Yeah.
also it complements it. So I don't want anyone to not feel like, oh, this is my secret hack to not budget. No, set a budget, but remind yourself that you decide what's in that budget. You decide how much you're going to spend for your lifestyle, how much your bills are, and how much money you want to start saving for the goals that you want to accomplish. Your goals might be different than mine. Your goal might be to travel the world and have like a sinking fund for that. Mine might be, I don't know, buying a house or healthcare expenses that come up. Everyone's goals are completely different, and I want people to start embracing that individuality and the creativity that comes from thinking outside the box sometimes.
I love that. I love that. So I will definitely be getting a copy. And I think we talked about doing a giveaway to my
Yes.
community for this book because it's going to be such a great resource for people that are looking for actionable, like get your hands dirty and do the work strategy, right? Your book also talks about the 2-week gap strategy to stop living paycheck to paycheck. Can you share a little bit about that? I know that all the juice is in the book, but maybe just like a little teaser about what that looks like.
Yes. The 2-week gap strategy is pretty much a way to start getting ahead of your bills by 2 weeks instead of always chasing your next paycheck. When I was working
Yeah.
at a payday loan spot back in 2010, the olden days before I was in finance or knew anything about that, I used to work at a payday loan spot and I would see people come in to get payday loans. So every 2 weeks, right on the clock, they would come in, give us pay back their old loan and get a new loan right away. The crazy part about this is that the interest on these loans, were in the hundreds. I didn't even know interest rates got to the hundreds. It was wild work. And I don't think they knew either how wild this actually was. And for a lot of these people, their cash flow was just running low, specifically because their paychecks were off sync with their actual bills. And for a lot of people, over 70% of people are living paycheck to paycheck, not because they don't make income, they don't make good money. It's because their cash flow is off sync and they need to get ahead of their bills instead of always chasing behind their bills. This is why we're seeing so many people using their credit cards, getting into revolving debt, or using payday loans or other loan services to make ends meet. So in this system, what we pretty much do is a kind of like a no spend challenge where you
Mm.
postpone spending on your lifestyle, saving towards your goals, and even investing if you're at that point to really focus in using all of that cash to get ahead of your bills by at least 2 weeks so that you're no longer living paycheck to paycheck and that you can stop being another
Ooh.
statistic.
Yeah, I feel like that's attractive to a lot of people. I know my younger version that was just like counting the days to my next paycheck, right? If I would have heard about something like this, like, oh, there's a strategy for me to kind of like really hunker down and get ahead. I think that's going to be super beneficial for readers to learn about. Let's pivot a little bit. So, your book, The High Five Banking Method, a money system you can count on. I have a lot of aspiring authors that listen to the podcast too. So, I'd like to hear a little bit about if you always knew you wanted to share this information via a book, or how did writing the book come about?
Yeah, so it kind of feels like a full circle moment for me again because my dad, he used to read books to me when I was younger. I never thought that I
Right.
would, write a book. I was more of a math girl than an English girl. But
Yes.
I got this opportunity the moment that I shared the high five banking method on social media. I'll be honest, it kind of went on fire and it went viral. When it was out of my hands at that point, it got
When was this? Do you remember the year?
Gosh, I don't remember the year. It has to be around like
It's
8 years
okay. I was just
ago.
curious.
No, it's
Yeah.
definitely around 8, 7 years ago. I posted it and then, I got reached out to be featured on Forbes Women. And the moment it's been on featured on there, so many people started reaching out, podcasts, and people wanting to get more information on this. And, I just kept on putting content, more content about this, videos, infographics. And I think eventually, one of the publishers from Wiley reached out and they asked me if ever wanted to write a book, and I was like, yeah, absolutely. I took the opportunity, and it was really great. I had a year to write the book. That's why I gave myself a year time frame. And it worked out really well and took 6 months to, finish the editing and the printing and all the other stuff. But yeah, the whole process, give yourself about a year, year and a half to kind of get everything done. I feel like that's pretty realistic if you're a new author, especially.
Yes, and I'm also glad that you kind of pointed out that writing isn't something that comes easy to us math girlies, right? Because I was a business economics major, and yeah, definitely more math oriented. What is that? The left side of your brain,
I
the
think so, yeah.
analytical side? I think so. And then the other side, maybe it's flipped, but yeah, one side of your brain is more analytical, and the other one's more creative. The creative stuff, I just never let myself get creative. Was that a challenge for you to get yourself into that creative mode? And then maybe some quick tips, a tip or two that you can share with aspiring authors to actually getting a book done, because a lot of people want to write a book and they just keep dreaming and wishing of writing a book, but they don't actually get it done. So what helped you actually get it done?
The biggest thing that helped me was like storyboarding my ideas of how I wanted every single chapter to be. Every chapter is like a story that you're
Mm.
pretty much trying to share and trying to massage through the readers. And what really helped me was on my wall, I would just get sticky notes, post-it notes, and start putting all the main topics that I wanted to talk about. And a lot of times I would pull back, talk to my husband, and rework the actual post-its over and over again and add some new ones. Oh, here's a story that
Oh, so he
is
was a
very
part of the
relevant.
process.
Oh, my husband helps me with everything. He's amazing.
That is so
I don't like
cool.
doing
He's so
anything by myself
supportive.
100%. So I was like, okay, what do you think about this? And
Did
he's
he
like,
ask for a co-author feature?
what did he do? He did design my cover of the book and all the graphics and
Oh,
also my photos. So he is on the book. He deserves his name
oh
on there.
yeah. Oh, that's amazing. That is
Yes.
so cool. And
It
it's
is
such a
so
beautiful
nice.
cover.
Thank
Is he a
you.
graphic designer?
Yes, he is.
Okay. Okay, so he's
Yes.
good at this stuff.
Oh
Wow,
yeah,
that's
he is.
awesome.
But it's good to kind of like bounce ideas with someone else as well because sometimes it makes sense in your brain. I know for me, I also speak Spanish, so sometimes my stuff is reversed a lot of times. It's
Yeah.
like el pollo loco is like crazy chicken. You got to figure out
Yeah.
how to say it. It's not crazy chicken.
Yeah.
No, how is it? Pollo is
Chicken
chicken
crazy.
crazy. That doesn't go like, it
Yeah.
doesn't match. So I always have to make sure that I'm like, my stuff makes sense and it's flowing good. But it really helped to use the little sticky notes or the post-it notes because I can maneuver things around. And once I start seeing the whole picture, you start getting a good gauge of how the story is going to go. And another big tip is see if you can use like an AI model to, listen to your book.
Mm.
Because a lot of times, you're reading it one way, but it sounds completely different. So that really helped a
Ooh,
lot
that's
as
such a
well.
good tip.
Yeah, I think I used
Yeah, that's a
Speechify.
good one. Okay, very good. Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank
that
you for
helped a
sharing
lot.
that. I know it'll be really
Absolutely.
helpful. Yeah. And then we're close to wrapping up here. I did want to incorporate a question about your identity as a mother. Me being child free, it's not a topic I talk much about legacy building with your children in mind. So I was just curious if you could share how you as a mother are setting up your kids for financial success so that maybe it can inspire our listeners with children to do the same.
Yeah, absolutely. So I designed the high five banking method easy enough for a child to even understand. So again, when you're looking at your hand, my kids are going to be able to say, hey, I know that I need a separate checking account for my bills, a separate checking account for my lifestyle, a separate savings account for my emergency fund, another savings account for my short term and long term goals. So they can clearly see,
Wow.
hey, I need 5 accounts this easily. And another way that I was able to help a lot of kids kind of remember, the meaning of each account is by using the high five banking method sign language, where I would say, hey, after you pay your bills, give yourself a thumbs up because no one's going to say good job for paying your bills but you. If for your lifestyle account, if you do less pointing and more saving, you'll be able to be in a better financial position. When it comes
Oh
to
my
your
God, that's so
emergency fund,
cool.
yes, it's cute. That's why I like it. When it comes to your
Uh-huh.
emergency fund, I don't promote like foul language, but F those emergencies. Give them the middle finger. Tell
Yeah,
them, you know what?
yeah,
I got
yeah.
this. I'm in control of my life, not you. Because life is going to give you a run for your money. You need to make sure you give life a run right back. Give them hell. And then when it
Yeah,
comes to your
yeah.
short-term goals, you got to stay
The
committed to
pinky
these.
finger.
Give
Uh-huh.
yourself a pinky promise that you are going to stay out of
Yeah.
debt and you are going to save for your short-term goals. And then for your long-term goals, you have to stay committed to them. This is a long-term commitment. It might take a little bit of time to get there,
Wow.
but hey, that's okay. That's what life's all about. So I really want my children and all the other parents that are listening to this and even aunties and tias and tios, make sure that your kids
Yeah.
understand the purpose of their finances. Not just, oh, this is for fun or this is just for that. Find purpose in everything that you're doing so that they can start being, motivated and inspired to say, hey, I know what I'm doing with my finances. I got my bill money here, got my lifestyle money here, got my savings. I'm intentionally moving my money in a way that benefits me, in a way that makes me feel in control and powerful about what my choices are in life. Because even me living in San Diego, this is a choice. I'm not forced to live here. You're not forced to live where you're living. Everything in life is a choice. Get that, that is be inspired to make choices in your life. Don't just let life happen to you. And I want my
Right.
children to feel that way and to feel empowered and, confident with their financial choices.
That is beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And you are so creative, right? To have thought of explain the process that way to a 5-year-old. That is so cool. And it's definitely something that I'm going to have to learn to teach to my nieces and like the younger women or younger girls in my life. We are coming close to the end, but I can't believe I haven't asked this question. I'm sure you addressed it in the book, but would you recommend all 5 accounts be at the same bank?
I do not recommend to put all your eggs in one basket. That's how I look at it. So I think it's really beneficial for people to maneuver different banks based on the purpose that you need. So this might be we're
Mm.
having 2 banks. One physical bank might be a credit union or a big bank in your community, and also an online bank where you can get options to having an online bank that has high yield savings accounts, low, checking fees and things of that nature. I think that's very beneficial to have that mixture and not just having just one bank of doing everything.
Smart.
Yes.
Very smart. Okay, awesome. Awesome. Well, Sahirenys, it's been a complete pleasure to have you on the show. Let's go ahead and wrap this up. Where can people follow you on social media? And when is the book coming out?
Yes, my book is coming out March 3rd. I'm super excited. Hopefully everyone can get the book. It's going to be sold
That's
at
next
all.
week. Okay.
Yes, it's coming up. So it's going to be sold at all locations that sell books. So Barnes& and Noble, Amazon, Target, Walmart, all those locations. And you can get more information on my website, thepoisedlifestyle.com. And you can also follow me on Poised Finance Lifestyle. I do a lot of Q&As and a lot of different videos about the high five banking method and different ways that you can implement it into your life.
Okay, so we'll definitely make sure to include that in the show notes. Your website, I'm assuming it also has the links to your socials, like your Instagram. Are you on TikTok, YouTube, any of the other platforms?
Yes, I'm on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, all the platforms, even Lemonade. And my
Okay.
username is the same, is Poised Finance Lifestyle.
Okay, very cool. And then you mentioned that the book is available for pre-order wherever people can buy their books. So that's awesome. And then will you be having any book signings that people can attend in person? I think those are always fun to meet your readers and have them ask you questions in real life.
Yes, absolutely. March 7th at noon, I'm going to be hosting a book signing at the Barnes& and Noble at the Otay Ranch Mall. I'm excited for people to come join and come see and get their book signed. I'll be there
And that's March 7th
at noon.
and Otay Ranch at noon.
Yes, the Barnes& and Noble there.
Super cool. At the Barnes and Noble. How fun. I wish I was closer so I could go and support. But
I know.
once that's out, if you have any promotional posts, please send it my way and I'm happy to share it on Instagram stories because I've been in San Diego for a book tour stop. So there's definitely Latina readers that care about personal finance. So that is so fun. I am so excited for you. Anything that we missed that you'd like to mention as we close?
Yes. When it comes to the hi-fi banking method, I know 5 accounts might seem a little overwhelming. So I want to promote a lot of the beginning people that are starting off to start with the first 3 accounts. That's having a checking account
Mm-hmm.
for your bills, one for your lifestyle, and one savings account for your emergency fund. The other 2 accounts are optional based on where you're at in your life. Once you get to a point where you want to save for a little vacation, hey, that short-term goals account is going to become very beneficial. If you want to save for a wedding or for a home, that long-term goals account will become very useful at that moment. But if you're not there yet, that's all right. Start with the first 3 and then work your way up to the other accounts.
Good. That's good to know because people can always get overwhelmed. So it's good to hear it from the expert. Like start small, get your way to 5, but start with the 3. Amazing. Again, the book is called The High Five Banking Method, a money system you can count on, and it is available to pre-order wherever you get books. Thank you so much, Sahirenys, for being on the show. And thank you for listening to this episode. We will see you on the next Cultura and Cash podcast. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.